First and foremost, all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the bishops, elders of Great Millstone, who taught me this truth, who lead as examples to the flock. And peace and salutations, much love to you, Akim, out there pushing this word for that penny a day. And to the rest of you believers, men, women, and children, of the household of faith, Shalom. Welcome to another Mark of the Beast video. Of course, we are continually pushing this prophecy because this is the next major prophecy that is going to take place, before the full-blown, World War III, takes center stage. We're going to see Revelation chapter 13, verse 16 come to pass in very real terms, as we see more and more things develop over the past few years to introduce, this technology to the population and to sensitize people. I was watching a video that the Apostle did, this morning, and again, he said, you camps that are not teaching that the RFID microchip is the mark of the beast, you need to get on board. Right? So what I'm going to do in this lesson is just bring out, just a few articles, to show you, who may be still doubtful, who may be just learning, coming across the truth, but is already in the truth, this can strengthen. It's out there. The information is out there. When we just started teaching about this, it was not easy for you to find information like this about this prophecy. But now it's so obvious. It's so undeniable. Right? So the first thing we're going to get, right, is this this article here from the UNESCO Courier, right? And it's about the 2019 event, COVID pandemic, right? And it's what they were interviewing Yuval Noah Harari, and they have this quote here at the top: every crisis is also an opportunity, right? And this is something that we've brought out continually in videos and will continually bring out. The elite of this world have a mechanism through which they introduce unfavorable legislation or changes in the population. And that's through crisis-driven legislation or crisis-driven management styles, right? Every crisis is also an opportunity, because a crisis, right, if you really look up the root of the word, it's a turning point. It's a pivot, right? So whenever a crisis presents itself within the population, within society, it offers the powers that be a turning point, a pivot, a way to change the direction in which society is going. Because a crisis is a point in which a lot of things are unstable. The equilibrium is not there anymore, so it's easy to shift the direction of society. So every crisis is also an opportunity. And the crisis that happened, the last major one, was the COVID-19 pandemic, right? So I wanted to read just a section of this interview here, right? So it was actually written 29th of April 2020, but it was updated last year, 4th of February 2025. I wanted to read a part that was updated here down at the bottom. All right, let me get it. All right, here we go. It says, the rise of AI and the need for technical solutions have seen private companies come forward. In this context, is it still possible to develop global ethical principles and restore international cooperation? As private companies get involved, it becomes even more important to craft global principles and restore international cooperation. Some private companies may be motivated by greed more than solidarity, so they must be regulated carefully. I'm going to just go down to the point. This next paragraph here, right, is the important part here. It says, this is particularly true when talking about surveillance. We are witnessing the creation of new surveillance systems all over the world, both by governments and corporations. The current crisis might mark an important watershed in the history of surveillance. First, it might legitimate or legitimize, that should be there, and normalize the deployment of mass surveillance tools in countries that have so far rejected them. Because under crisis, you can pass certain legislation that would not pass in normal times. Secondly, and even more importantly, it signifies a dramatic transition from over the skin to under the skin surveillance. Now, quotes like this have been spotted here and there, even more common in the past few years, and these things are important, right? So when you have Cam still teaching that, oh, the mark of the beast is sin in all its formed and this and that, and half dead cow fat, you as the British would say, you're taking a piss, right? You're taking a piss, right? It's so clear, but yet it also is clear that you men have taken the bag. Let's get this. So this is a study. I won't read the entirety of the study, but this is a study, right? Posted in Science Direct Technology in Society, August 2023. It says augmented body surveillance, human microchip implants, and the omnipresent threat of function creep. What is function creep? Let's look it up. Function creep is the gradual, often imperceptible, meaning you're not really recognizing it, right? It's gradual, it's insidious. The gradual, often imperceptible expansion of a system, technology, or data collection process beyond its original intended purpose. So they can say, oh, we need to do this under the skin surveillance for what? So to become more interested in what is happening inside the body, your medical condition, body temperature, blood pressure, whatever it is, right? So they can introduce it like something like that, health surveillance. But then through function creep, which is the gradual change and expanding of what the technology does, it just happens, right? Human microchip implants create augmented bodies that can be subject to surveillance. There are security, privacy, and data protection concerns associated with human microchip implantation. There's an observable function creep, and we just looked up what that is, in human microchip implantation applications, right? So this study is going into the expansion of this technological habit in society and its pros and cons. So I won't read too much into it, but the point is made. The conversation is being had, right? It's being put out there, right? So this particle is from way back when, in 2017, from, of course, the World Economic Forum. And remember when this news broke, and brothers everywhere did a video on it. Jobs and the future of work. Jobs and the future of work. They've been telling you. These workers have got a microchip implant in their hand from their employer. And this was from 3 Square Market. When we talk about a cashless society, we usually mean contactless bank cards or smartphones to make everyday purchases. But what if you didn't need to carry a device at all? That is a tantalizing prospect, leading some employees in Europe to be voluntarily microchipped with a radio frequency identification tag. And now Americans are getting in on the act of implanting microchip in humans. US tech company 3 Square Market, right, hosted a summer party with a difference at the start of August, right? They called it a chip party. So this was way back in 2017, right? And a lot of people, were like, what's going on here? But then a lot of people were like, yeah, this is a new thing. So slowly they're introducing it into the society. And this was back in 2017. So what is the future going to be like? Is this going to be, is there going to be an increase in the amount of people who use implanted microchips, or is it going to go down? Well, the prophet said it's going to increase. And this is also what this Yahoo Finance article says. This was from May 15th, 2024. It says global human microchipping market size to worth $2.56 billion US by 2033. It says the global human microchip market size was valued at US 1.42 billion in 2023, and the worldwide human microchip market size is expected to reach US 2.56 billion by 2033. Why? Why is it expected to almost double in that 10 years? And it's going to be much more. It's because this is going to be rolled out, right? Mandatorily, right? This is no longer a hypothetical situation. This is Micah chapter 2 verse 1. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds when the morning is light. They practice it because it is in the power of their hands. They've been telling you what they're going to do, and they're bringing it to pass. And they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away, so they oppress a man in his house and a man in his heritage. Right? Psalm 64 verse 5 in the NLT says what? They encourage each other to do evil and plan how to set traps in secret, saying, who will ever notice? They ask. Right? As they plot their crimes, they say, we have devised the perfect plan. Yeah, the human heart and mind are cunning. They say, who will ever see it? Because what? It's imperceptible. What does the word imperceptible mean? Let's look it up. Right? So slight, gradual, or subtle as not to be perceived. Who will ever notice? We notice. We've been bringing it out. We've been blowing the trumpet. Right? It's coming. It's coming. Right? So this is from the Google overview AI, and I just typed in implanted RFID microchips and CBDC. So it says RFID microchips are increasingly being used to replace physical items like bank cards, keys, identification, with some experts predicting a future integration with CBDC, central bank digital currencies, which is why you see brothers continually doing videos on CBDCs, on digital IDs. Functionality. These chips, roughly the size of a grain of rice, are typically injected into the hand. They operate similar to contact-like credit cards or smartphone NFC chips. As of 2025-2026, thousands of people, particularly in Sweden, use them to access buildings, unlock homes, store emergency medical information, and make contact-like payments. Payment integration. Companies like Walletmore have already begun selling implants that enable human bank card payments. Here they give you the article. The microchip implants that lets you pay with your hand. Right? So, linked to CBDCs, programmable money. The convergence of implantable technology and CBDCs could potentially allow individuals to carry, store, and spend digital money directly from their bodies. Internet of Body. Some perspectives suggest that these chips are a part of a broader shift towards the Internet of Bodies, where sensors are attached to or implanted within the human body to collect, monitor, and potentially analyze data. Theoretical future. Some narratives suggest that in a future where cash is obsolete, a single implant could combine digital identification, medical records, and digital wallets holding CBDCs. It's coming, right? Revelation 13 verse 16, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. And how are they doing it? Simple, right? It's right here. Let me go back to the top of the article. Every crisis is also an opportunity, right? Matter of fact, let me interact with this thing. And how can crisis-driven legislation be used to implement implantable RFID microchips in society on a large scale? Let's see what it says. This is something we've gone into many times, but we're gonna keep going into it. Right? Because the prophecies have not yet come to pass. We're gonna keep blowing the trumpet. Crisis-driven legislation, often referred to as emergency mandates, can accelerate the adoption of controversial technologies like implantable RFID microchips by prioritizing immediate safety, security, or economic stability over long-term privacy concerns. Just like the other day when Trump was there was a so-called assassination attempt on Trump, and he said, we need to renew FISA, which is a legislation to spy pretty much on the American citizens and people overseas who they deem to be terrorist threats. Right? It says the use of emergency frameworks to introduce new technologies typically involves a debate between perceived societal benefits, such as increased security or administrative efficiency, and the protection of individual civil liberties. When legislation is passed during a crisis, the primary focus is often on rapid response. However, the introduction of subdermal technology would face significant legal hurdles. So here we go again. Function creep, right? So it's showing it doesn't want to go too much in it, but that's exactly what they're gonna do. They're gonna use crises, polycrises, to introduce changes which you would not normally accept. Right? Every crisis is also an opportunity. Right? So hopefully this lesson was edifying. Until next time, shalom.